Literary theory is one of the most important subjects that you cannot skip for UGC-NET examination. At least you are going to find 10 to 12 questions from this particular subject in your upcoming UGC-NET examination. Sometimes you may get 13 questions, sometimes 15 questions. And approximately if you figure out the previous year questions of UGC-NET examination, then you will find that around 20 to 22 questions come both from literary theory and literary criticism. And the good thing is that if you just go to literary theory, if you understand all the theories, all those 12 to 13 theories, for instance, Marxism, post-colonial literature, structuralism, post-structuralism, deconstruction, psychoanalytic criticism, archetypical criticism, new criticism, so on and so forth, if you just understand these theories, you have much more accuracy in the examination. It is not like British literature, not like American literature where questions can come from anywhere. Alright, so you just simply understand these theories and that will do the work, and you will get 90% accuracy in the examination. Alright, so all these theories, all these 12 to 13 theories is simply a way of looking at literature from different angle. By simply applying one of these theories from these 12 to 13 theories, you are going to figure out some hidden elements in the novel or in a work which author does not want to put on the surface level. Yes, when a writer writes, he deliberately hides some elements in his works and leave it on the reader to interpret the whole novel or a work. So these 12 to 13 theories are not that much difficult and does not require a genius mind. You don't require an intellectual mind to understand these theories. These are the part of undergraduate program and postgraduate program. So if you are 18 years old, 19 years old, 20 years old, then you have all the capacity to understand these theories. In fact, these theories are not that intellectual, but sort of, you can say, the tools to analyze, to understand literature in a better way. Yes, it happens a lot of times that people try to sound intellectual and try to complicate these theories. There are some professors, experts, or you can say colleagues, your friends, try to sound intellectual by using obscure terms, by making this theory complex. That's human behavior. Yes, when you sound intellectual, when you sound philosophical, you get some respect in the society, you get power in the society, you get the feeling of being superior to others around you. Alright, so it is normal thing that people try to sound intellectual by putting out the examples of these theories in a difficult manner. But do not believe in thinking that literary theory is a set of profound ideas. These are not. Alright? So in this video, we are going to look at 3 important steps to understand or to approach beginning theory by Peter Berry. So before beginning this video, if you are one of those students who want to crack UGC-NET examination or GATE examination in English literature, then you can simply place your order of our study material from our official website limitlessliterature.com. You can check the link in the description below to know more about our study material. Now without any further delay, let's begin this video. So the very first thing to understand Peter Berry's beginning theory is to start small. You need to understand that there is a process behind everything. Alright, for instance, if you want to write a book, there is a process, there is a step-by-step process to understand how to write a book. You simply do not jump on to writing a book. You need to follow some steps, you need to follow some process, and you have to go through it for consistently for 3 to 4 months in order to write one book. Alright, so in a similar way, there is process behind everything. You want to improve your finances, there is a process. You want to improve your health, there is a process behind it. There are some actions you have to make it, then only you are going to improve your financial health or your mental health or physical health. The same way, in order to understand beginning theory by Peter Berry, there is a process, and the very first step of this process is to start small. Many students face a lot of problem in understanding beginning theory by Peter Berry. The simple reason is that they don't have good command on their basics. Alright, so try to understand that you need to clear your basics before jumping onto this book. You cannot solve the questions of profit and loss if you do not know how to do addition, how to do subtraction, how to do multiplication or division. right? You need to understand the questions of profit and loss. You need to clear your basics. You have to make your foundation very good in order to go to the upper level questions in mathematics like integration and differentiation. The same goes for literary theory. Even in the introduction of this beginning theory by Peter Barry, he suggests to the students to go through some kind of initial knowledge in order to pick the wavelength of this book. You need to pick the wavelength of this book. You need to have some basics clear out in your mind. And literary theory is nothing but the introduction of other subjects into English literature. For instance, Sigmund Freud brought psychology into English literature. Then we have New Historicism and Cultural Materialism, who brought sociology in English literature. And then we have feminism, deconstruction, who talks about politics, right? So literary theory is the combination of a lot of other subjects. Therefore, in order to understand literary theory by Peter Barry, beginning theory by Peter Barry in a much easier way, is to clear some basics before you approach this book. You must know what is economics, what is Marxism, what is socialism, what is capitalism, communism, or you can say hermeneutics or semiotics, what is language, what is conscious mind, what is subconscious mind, or you can say what is Bible. Yes, you need to understand a little bit of Bible also, and all the different types of literary devices. And you must be able to know what is anthropology or epistemology. Alright, so all these basics, you must have some basic ideas. I'm not saying that you have to go in detailed study of all these subjects. Some basic ideas, some basic definitions, because these all are the terms which is continuously repeatedly asked or repeatedly mentioned in literary theory. Alright, so the very first step to understand beginning theory by Peter Barry is to have some basic idea about all these terms. Now let's talk about our second step of this process to understand beginning theory by Peter Barry, and that is to read this book very slowly. In fact, it is Peter Barry who mentions in the book, in the introduction of this book, that you need to read this book intensively rather than extensively. You don't have to go on reading all the pages in one day. You don't have to treat it like a novel. You have to read it very slowly. For instance, there are around 10 number of pages in the introduction of this Peter Barry's beginning theory. So it took me around 35 minutes to read these 10 pages. I could have read these 10 pages in 10 minutes, but I followed the advice of the author, the advice of Peter Barry, who deliberately asked me to read this book very intensively, to read this book very slowly. And that is why it took me 35 minutes to understand what Peter Barry is trying to say. So you don't read the book in a desperate manner. Don't skim read it. Read it slowly and understand what the author is trying to say. Alright, so the second approach is to read the book intensively rather than extensively, and spending a good amount of time in understanding the paragraph, in understanding the sentences. So the second step of this process, or rather I should say very important step of this process to understand or to approach beginning theory by Peter Barry, is to get into the game rather than remaining a spectator. This is the biggest difficulty, this is the biggest problem with the students, that they don't get into the game. They remain spectator. They just look at their professors, they just look at the experts playing with the theories rather than getting into these theories and playing with them. You cannot learn swimming without jumping into the pool. You cannot learn to drive a car by looking at the YouTube videos. You cannot learn football by not going into the ground. You cannot play cricket without going into the ground and picking the bat and hitting some strokes. The same goes for literary theory. And yes, this is very important step to understand, that without applying these literary theory into the works, you are not going to understand them. To understand literary theory, you have to start correlate it with the Indian context. For instance, I was reading P.K. Nair's Literary Theory and Cultural Studies, and he has a very professional way, he has used the examples of Indian culture, the example of the movie Dhoom, for correlating it with the theories of deconstruction, or you can say cultural materialism. And this make him separate from other educators, other professionals in the field of literary theory. In a very playful manner, he has used literary theory and correlated it with Indian context, which I think is the very best way to understand literary theory. Now the question is that how you are going to apply these theories, how you are going to understand the theories in a much more better way. So for that, Peter Barry has deliberately used the questions at the end of each chapter. There are lists of questions at the end of each chapter that he is asking from the reader. Alright, so when you complete one chapter, for instance, you completed one chapter on feminism, then there are questions on that feminisms that he is asking you, and you have to use your thinking ability in order to answer all those questions. And when you are trying to answer all those questions, try to relate it with Indian context, because this is going to help you. We are reading literature. We are not colonized people. We have to read the literature with decolonized mind, and we have to understand literature with Indian context so that we can liberate our mind as well as we can accept English. We are brown Indians, and whenever you study literature, your culture must be there. Your culture must be there when you are reading literary theory or approaching Peter Barry's beginning theory. For instance, as I am creating this video, I have read Peter Barry's introduction, but my own point of view is also here in this video. My own Indian culture, my own mentality, my own habits is there, is speaking, is standing for Indian culture, as I am helping you to understand how to approach beginning theory by Peter Barry. Yes, my views are imperfect, my views cannot be perfect, but at least I have my opinion, I have my views while I'm talking to you, while I'm sharing the knowledge with you. Alright, so these are the 3 important steps, and that is very much required for you to understand literary theory in a much better way. So with this, we come to the end of this video. If you found the video worth your time, then don't forget to subscribe the channel for more updates on English literature. That's it for this video. Thank you.